Well, hello my friends. Furtado here, the Rebel Turner. I know it's been a little while since I've been here. Today's turning is not going to be so much geared around tool usage on what do I do to get from A to B. It's going to be about, I think, a great subject matter. And that is, how do you get the most out of every piece of wood that you put up on a lathe? There are always a couple of things that we're looking at every time we look at a piece of wood. We are looking for the best possible layout, pattern, and getting the most that you can out of whatever piece of wood that you are working with. If I am concentrating on orientation, I'm really not going to be focusing on all the cut all the way through unless I feel that I'm bringing something up that's important for your knowledge. So, with that being said, the first thing I'm going to do is show you where I'm thinking of turning these two turnings. I got a log, piece of sea grape, and the log is in width 6 inches wide. So we look at this, and if we're doing any type of an end grain bowl, for instance, which is one of my favorite type of turnings. I like end grain because it will allow me to capture whatever offsets, irregularities on the log, and that gets shown up as the edge. So I like that for bowls, end grain bowls, vases, droop overs, whatever style of end grain turning that I'm doing. I do like logs split up and get natural edge from end bark as well. And those always somewhat seem to give you more of a log than what you normally do from an end turning. Because end turning, if you have a 5-inch piece of wood, that's how big your bowl is, correct? Technically, yes. But that's what today's wood turning is about, is how to get an end grain turning from again a 6-inch log, how to get possibly an 8-inch end grain turning. Let's get started and bring you to the bandsaw. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this at an angle, maybe 40 degrees or so, and cut it up so it becomes a sliver, both front and back, going, like I said, at about 45 degrees. Well, this one is going to have this checking going through here. What you do with this checking, that's up to you. That's completely different. It didn't end up quite as thick as what I was initially doing. I started off a little bit thinner here, but the piece is really not going to be much thicker than this, so this will be fine. So what you do now is you grab whichever one you want to be the top. In this case, I want this one to be the top because of this offset is here that will add a little character to it, and I am going to work off the center of this side over here, not the back side. So regardless of where it sits over here, the front of it will be centered. So as I always, or pretty much 90%, 95% of the time, put it up on my spur drive. So make that small adjustment, and that way I am flat against the jaws, and now I can start shaping this up to already a shape of a bowl of some sort, and with a tenon on it, which is going to be required to finish this up. Work safe. Now this is not a heavy piece, so it's not going to wobble that much, but if I put this at 1000 RPMs, yeah, it's going to wobble. So I'll slow it down. This is not a case where I'm trying to save the bark. I am just trying to gain whatever natural edge it's given me here, but I'm not going to remove the bark per se. It will do whatever it wants to do as far as that is concerned. Now this is 600 RPM, and that is almost acceptable. 5/8 Carter & Son bow guide. Nice and easy until I get to solid wood towards the center where my tenon is going to be. Now the more I take on this, the more stable this piece becomes, and the less wobbling of the lathe. Now the less wobbly it becomes, the faster I can start putting it up, which makes the cuts a little bit easier. So I'm at 900 RPM right now. There's my tenon being established. So I got a tenon. It's pretty much shaped for my dovetail. Not pretty, but I can get the rest of this from back here or continue going and bring this cut all the way to the top edge. So I'm going to do that a little bit, create a little bit more of a profile so I don't do it going into the chuck. Get your work close to your tool rest. feel that's close enough to the top edge where I can do a safe bottom turning. I can feather this out without taking anything from here really. So I might do that and just keep this as big as possible. You know, probably don't need this, but why not use it? You have it. Until I know that I can't possibly use it any longer, I always keep my tail stock, my live center in on the piece. I don't see any need whatsoever or any advantage of not using, but I can tell you 100 advantages to using it, and that is your safety, and they're all safety concerned. Use your live center and that piece will stay on. Now don't get me wrong, a piece could still fly off it depending on what you're doing, but the odds of the piece coming off the whole piece coming off the lathe are greatly reduced by you keeping your live center in. So it's there, it doesn't get in your way. Use it as long as you can. There'll be a time that you can't, and we'll know when that is. I'm going to just feather this up back here to get a little close on that. Do that by creating a nosebleed on the outside part of the board. Cuts look good, nice and clean. This checking that's going through the pit over here will make for an interesting filler when all said and done at the end of this. Or you keep it open, which in a lot of cases I do, because I don't mind that look. You know, I don't look for how perfect I can make something. I look for how interesting something can be. And I'm not saying that just because things are filled, that does not mean that they're not interesting. They can be extremely interesting, as a matter of fact, but it's a different type of interesting. So keep things natural in many of my turns as much as I can. now is the time that you really don't have much of a choice but to take out the live center. But now I've taken out the bulk of the wood, so really it's not a problem. Now I will still be careful, and I have to come up all the way up to this edge to make this piece work. I don't want this flat piece over here to look like it's a mistake. So go in here nice and light until I just start taking it from here on out. Now I've used this many times. I've told you about it many times. The area that I'm focusing on is over here. So by putting these marks on the tool rest fairly close, you know how far off you have to come at the point that you're cutting wood. So I want to hit it right here. Now be careful out here. Now using the scraper here really has done some lifting. It got rid of tool marks, but it did not give me the clean cut that I had here. I had a cut that basically needed no sanding. All I was looking for the scraper to do was get rid of a little ridge that I had in here, and by doing that I messed up my cuts. So if you can use a traditional gouge, which is what's going to give you the cleanest cut on that, go ahead and do a push cut one more time, nice and light. tripod. And there it is, my nice clean cuts pretty much throughout the whole piece again. Still got a little bit here, but I'm pretty clean through here. I am sure that I could probably do it one more time here, but now the piece becomes bouncy on you, so there's a little flex on this as it's spinning, so it makes it a little bit tougher, but I still think that I can do one more pass. Now, stay out of the way. Don't be brave and be right in front of this piece when it's spinning like this. Okay, that's as clean as I dare get it. Now this is pretty flimsy here, so we don't need heroes. We just need to get the job done as safely as we can and achieving what we're looking for. Well, not going to bore you all the way through, but here it is, almost from a round log, creating some interest and a bigger bowl than what you normally would get. So I didn't gain much, but it became a 7¼ inch at the widest point. So, and that repeats in a couple of spots here and here. So 7¼ inches from a 6¼ inch log. And you can do that. I'm not saying that you're always going to get the best possible layout, but it will give you something a little bit different than the norm. At this point, this is sanded with 120. It's super smooth. Don't see any scratch lines. I could literally go in here probably and just do my Yorkshire grit at this point and give it a decent finish. Now there's quite a bit of separation on this. The whole center pit is somewhat separated, especially this piece right here, separating exactly where the pit is. So that area right there actually requires to get a little bit of CA glue in order to make that piece hold together, or else this piece will fly off. Now this will give it an interesting finish if I decided to put tape on the back and rub some sawdust all the way through it, which is one of my preferred options of finishes. Now this would also look super with some turquoise filler, or some filler with just some epoxy with different thing, whether if it was clear resin or something else, that would also look pretty nice. And on this particular case, I'll probably do that for the end results. So anyway, here's option number one. I decided rather than have bark or no bark, all I wanted to do was maintain the edging the way it was and just sand it down the bark. And it can have some highlights of it, but I didn't want 95 or 80% of it having bark and 20% no. I wanted to balance it off. So balance it off by, even if it stays with small spots, but it's balanced and not offset. So that's what I just did here. And all right, even though I have not sanded this properly to the correct grit, I should have at least 220 or 320 on this sanding, and it's only sanded with 120. But I want to show you what it would look like once all said and done and finished properly. So anyway, this piece is sanded very, very roughly with only 120. I tell you, it did not do what I wanted it to do, but it's perfectly understandable. I mean, you know, you can't possibly expect miracles out of something that you don't take the time to do it 100%. And the sanding is far from being at 100%. It was 120. So with 120, doesn't look bad. It's a very sheen look to it, and I do see all the cut marks from the 120 grit sandpaper still on the piece. So again, like I said, you want to achieve something better than that, you have to go with a much lighter grit on the sanding. Now, that's all I'm going to do for this one. Just wanted to show you a different orientation and nothing really else. The next one, well, for this one, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. And the next one is going to be something completely different, but again, on orientation. Make sure you come back and watch it. It will probably be posted right after this one. Thanks again. See you very soon. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button and like and share with your friends. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.